So, rephrase your point. What you were talking about? What you just said?
Okay. Child dies, right?
True. Yeah.
Not even one.
Yeah.
Goes to heaven, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it has any knowledge of where it is?
Yeah.
You
Why
you
are
can't
you
even think
why are
to
you
yourself.
still why are you assuming that the baby is one in heaven and then it gets sent down and now it gets sent down that same age that it was in heaven and then it gets sent back up, or it dies and then it goes back to heaven, and now in heaven it stays one and it doesn't know where it's at. Do you know
Well, you told
anything
me it
about
wasn't
heaven in the Bible? Because right now what
I
you're
know
going
heaven
off
is an
is pretty
infinite
much your
place.
own interpretation is your own interpretation of heaven and how it should work. And you keep going through this naturalistic view of God cannot create anything like this. That God cannot give somebody the knowledge for in heaven, or that God cannot, or that someone does not have knowledge in heaven, the place where God dwells. I'm very confused for you.
Okay, so you're saying he gives the baby knowledge, right? Is that what you're saying?
He gives the
Or you
baby
think
knowledge. The baby are sure, yeah, here.
that's what I'm
Even
asking.
though I've disagreed with your 58, if you say that 58 times, sure. Let's say he gives the baby knowledge, which is not. What do you mean by gives the baby knowledge? Let me ask you that. What do you mean?
Like gives the baby an understanding of who he is, like as a whole. Because the child could have not been. Child doesn't even know what Christianity is. He doesn't even know what religion is.
In
He just came out.
in on Earth, yes, he would not know on Earth, yes, he would not.
But the second you get sent up there, he apparently does.
And why would that be wrong? Explain that to me.
Why would it be wrong? How would it be true? Is what I'm asking.
What is heaven?
The place after quote unquote death is what you guys say.
The place
Where you
after
go if
death,
you
the place before death, God's dwelling. Yes, God's dwelling. Place after death, where people live before and after death. So, why do you keep trying to make it seem like it's Earth just after death, where a person or a baby, if a baby dies, they have no consciousness and they just spawn in there and now they're there and they don't know what to do and they grow up, or maybe let's say they don't grow up and they're just crawling around heaven. Why would they not know who God is? And why would they don't even have a physical body? The person is not an age. Biblical angels are not people. I hope you know that.
I'm like well aware of that.
Okay, so if they're not people, then whenever they go to heaven, they wouldn't be a person of 1 years old of an age.
Oh, so you think when people go to heaven, you think people become angels when they die, right?
Yeah,
If they go to heaven?
yeah. No, they're not angels like Gabriel or
Yeah, I'm not like I'm asking
Archangel
you. You think
Michael,
you
but
turn like biblical angels, right? When they
yes, they
die,
become biblical angels for God. God, yes.
and they gain all the knowledge, right?
What do you mean by all the knowledge?
Okay, okay. How much knowledge do you think God would give them?
I don't know.
That's what I'm asking.
But what knowledge would they need? That's my question to you. What knowledge would they need? And why would they have to
If an
gain
infant
knowledge?
dies, doesn't it need knowledge to know how to communicate? Does it need knowledge to know how to actually move on its own?
No,
Or do you think it just
because
learns these
well,
things?
okay. So do you think so by what you're saying right now, the baby dies, goes to heaven, and no, they're not a biblical angel, they're now a baby, and now they grow up from a 1 year
I'm not
old
saying you
biblical
just told me
angel.
they don't age, so I'm saying they don't age.
Yes, because they are biblical angels. They're not a person that needs knowledge and aging to be able to walk, talk, see, and move.
So you're saying they don't require a sense of sight, touch?
That's not
Is
what
that
I
what you're
said.
saying?
I said they don't need to gain that knowledge.
So they just exist there?
But where else would they exist?
I mean, like the sole purpose, they just exist there? without a purpose, without a cause,
Well,
except to worship God.
we don't just have to worship God. Yes, it is the place to be with God and to worship and be and sing and have fellowship and communication with God. Yes, but it's also a place where people are happy and people are reunited and it's perfect relationships. It's not just like
Oh, but if one of your loved ones gets sent to hell, you don't remember them. Is that correct? If you're in heaven, you won't remember anybody who gets sent to hell. Is that correct?
if I remember a verse you're talking about correctly, I would have to say yes.
I'm trying to. Yeah,
I'm
pretty
pretty
sure
sure.
that's what it
I'm pretty
said.
sure even if they go to heaven, but I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm not in heaven. I don't know heaven. I'm not
So yeah,
God.
no shit, Sherlock.
So points are
Everything
very
everything
awesome.
is theoretical. Everything after death is theoretical. That's why religion exists, to cope with that theoretical stance.
Actually, I would say atheism is more of a code because you can do whatever you want in this world, whatever action, anything you want, and then not, and then you don't have consequences because then you'll just die. It's just nihilism. Well, yeah, like right now, I could kill the other guy
Okay,
here named Snowy. I could go kill Snowy, and walk out, and I just die, and I could kill Snowy and kill myself, and I'll have no repercussions after death. Or I could kill a bunch of people in a mall or a bunch of people in a high school, and then maybe I'll go to jail. Maybe I'll get punched, but who cares? Because in the end, we all die, and there's no aftermath. So there's no real big
that's
punishment for my
nihilism, not
actions.
atheism.
That is literally
That's just
atheism.
nihilism.
Atheism is the idea that atheism you have to concede nihilism if you're an atheist. Do you not
I
know
have
that?
because I don't think God exists makes say, oh shit, well, life doesn't matter anymore. Do you
That's
think
not
so?
what I
You think
said. That's
because
not
I
what I
don't
said. But I'm
believe in
saying
God, I
that
don't have a purpose? Because you think I don't believe in God, I don't have
I'm
a
saying that
purpose. I don't have.
everything that has ever existed, all of world history, every individual life, is ultimately meaningless. You have to conceive that. Philosophical and psychological research has shown, I'm bringing this up from my own book that I can give you, clear links between atheism and depression. Because you cannot say that there is an ultimate meaning in life because all that happens is that you just die in the end. And whatever you've
Okay,
done
so what if I
will
say
make
progressing as a humanity,
whatever you've done, hold on,
progressing
whatever
as
you
a race is an ultimate meaning in life? Would you still say it's worthless
what?
to progress as a species as a whole instead of worshiping a god instead?
So okay, so you're gonna go by what the biological meaning of life of just giving your passing down your genes?
Progressing, what I mean, like becoming better as a civilization as a whole, as a species as a whole.
Well, who's gonna matter? Because in the end, your civilization, like you think people in Rome thought that, then who cares? In the end, their whole civilization blew up and died and got raided and is now in the dirt, and people are still trying to find remnants of it. So who cares in the end? That's not a meaning of life. Because then who cares if this all goes down and goes to crumble in the end? That's what we call nihilism. So in reality, atheism is more of a code because you have no repercussions for your actions, and
You're
then it
saying
leads to
atheism
nihilism.
is a code because I don't have repercussions for my actions, but you guys have to say, oh well, I can't do this because I'll go to hell if I do this. So I have to be good. I have to do this. I have to do that if I want to get there.
No, you don't have to
But
do
if I don't
anything.
do this and I
You
don't do that, I go
do you know
down.
Christianity? Christianity is the idea that you are a sinner. You cannot do and you cannot prove any works to get yourself to heaven. You will be saved by the death and the blood of Jesus Christ. It's not you being a person who sends yourself to heaven. You cannot there's nothing you can do to get yourself to heaven without the Savior and the blood of Jesus Christ. God says this multiple times. Jesus says it multiple
Okay,
times.
so so you're in so if I'm not Christian, I go to hell.
Yes.
Just that.
Yes.
That's what you think. That is exactly what you think, right?
Yes.
You're not
If
Christian,
you
you go straight to hell.
if you do not believe
If
in
he is
Jesus,
all powerful,
hold
he
on,
does not need worship. If
hold
he's all powerful, why does he
on.
need his own creation to worship him?
Oh my, like you atheists, just never let someone talk. Hold on, man. Let me talk. Let me get a sentence off. If you do not believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ and God the Father, Yahweh, and the prophets, or you don't have to really believe in the prophets, you just have to believe in in God, Yahweh, and the blood and the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. If you do not believe in that, yes, you will go to hell. You can talk. Give me your point. What do you want to say? I gave you my point. Give me your point.
My point.
Yeah.
Okay, so shit. Hold on. I got something up. That's why I'm trying to look at it. But as a whole, you think a person deserves eternal suffering because they don't turn to a God?
How well we don't. Well, how do you know hell is eternal suffering? The Bible didn't say that hell is eternal suffering. The Bible mentions eternal void, outer darkness, and yes, a lake of fire for Satan and his demons, but it doesn't mention people.
Okay, let me look at that.
Go ahead and look it up. I already did this with another guy named Webb before, so you can go ahead and do this. Eternal suffering, I don't know
Okay,
where you get that from.
the biblical terms of hell: a state of place, punishment for the wicked after death. Punishment. So I would be punished for not turning my life to God, right? But you told me God was all powerful, right? So why would he need the worship of his own creation to worship him if he is all powerful?
He doesn't need your worship.
Then
That's not
why
what it
then
is.
why do we have to worship him? Then why?
Where
Is
did
there
I
a
say you have
reason?
to worship him? Did I say for you to go to heaven that you have to worship him?
You literally said in heaven you want to worship God, you want to commune with him.
I said you want to. Now you're gonna want to. You're gonna do that because you want to, because you are with God, and with God's all powerful and all lovingness, you are gonna want to worship with Him. That is after heaven. That is in heaven. That is not how you get to heaven. This is how I know you don't. How are you a Catholic but you don't know? How are you? How were you a Catholic but you don't know any of this?
She got dropped that years ago.
Okay,
Years ago.
even if you dropped that years ago, for the Christian state, for you to have, you're so wrong, man.
I'm so wrong.
You're so wrong in your understanding
You're
of
telling,
hell
you're
and
telling me
heaven
right
and
now because
how.
I believe in a fictional God that was written by man himself. But he resurrected from the dead. But we have no proof of that either. But oh
You
man,
want to
but
go into that? You want to concede? Hold on, we
your
can go into
entire
that, but
argument is
no,
theoretical. Your entire religion is theoretical.
no, we can go into Jesus' resurrection and death and resurrection and his existence right now, but you have to concede the other 2 points that you've been doing because you just keep going back on your words, or you just end up giving yourself and having no idea of what heaven and or how to actually go to heaven is. You don't have to worship. You don't have to do these prayers. You don't have to do the Hail Marys. You don't have to do the Catholic things. You don't have to do any of that. That is
You have to
for the
go. Wait, you
worship
have
of
to.
God. Yes. Yes, you should go to church and you have to go to church. Yes. But you do not have to do the 20 Hail Marys and do all these things. Eucharist, yes.
You
But
have to go to church, right?
yes, I go to church because I want to worship God.
Well, I go to hell if I don't go to church. Simple question.
Are you Christian?
Nope.
So you're not Christian and you're not going to
But if
church.
I was, let's say I'm just asking in general. If I will I go to hell if I do not go to church?
No, I wouldn't say so. I don't know. I'd have to research more into it.
Because let's say I don't. I'm not religion. I'm not born into religion. I live away from religion entirely.
What you're about to
Um,
commit is a genetic fallacy. Please do not do it.
you said what?
What you're about to say is going to be a genetic fallacy, so don't do it.
A genetic fallacy?
Do you know what a fallacy is?
Not a genetic one.
A genetic fallacy is what you're about to do. It's just because you're born away or you're not born into a religion means that you would either A, not be a part of that religion, or B, just because you have no knowledge means that you will never see that religion. The genetic fallacy. And it is a fallacy, meaning that there's no reason for me to go and answer that argument. So give
I
me
mean, you
a better argument. And plus, I already debated that with three grown men in LFG. I debated that with Vol
did
at 2 a.m.
FG.
I had to. I debated
Oh,
that with Vol himself and two others at 2 a.m. So give me something else that is not a genetic
no,
fallacy.
yeah, it's but like at the same time though, you know about North Sentinel Island, right?
Yes, but that has nothing to do with like you said. That is a genetic fallacy. Now, what is okay? Fine, genetic fallacy. But what's your question?
So you know the people about North Sentinel Island, right?
Sure, and what they do? Yes,
You
I
know,
do.
away from literally everyone, and no one goes to visit their island.
Correct.
Except for one time when a person went over there, right?
And who was that person?
It was a Christian one. He tried to preach to them,
Exactly.
right? He was
It was a
killed
Christian.
almost immediately.
He
Spirit
was
down,
killed almost immediately.
right?
Correct. Okay, well, first off, you're wrong. It wasn't almost immediately, but yes, they did kill him.
They killed him, right?
Yeah.
They don't understand his language, right? They don't speak whatever he spoke. They speak their own language, right? And
Sure.
do you think it's their fault?
They were isolated.
Well, the
Do you
children,
think,
yeah.
do you think
Do
it's
you
their
think it's their
fault?
fault?
So do you think that it's the North Sentinel Island people's fault that they've willingly isolated themselves and now they're stuck in the situation? Yes, but do I think that it's their fault that they cannot read the word of God in English or Greek? No. And as we read in the Bible, it says for the people that do not understand or know God's word, God will judge them based off the law the law and morality that He has written on those people's hearts. Next question.
So you assume everyone has a sense of of morality, even though everybody has different morals.
Didn't we already do this?
But you're assuming they're the same.
I never said they were the same. I said God will judge them based on the morality that He written down in their hearts.
Okay, whatever. Next question. Okay. And you think it's the same for the people before Christ, like before the Bible?
We talk about this before again. The Bible, as we said, even the events that are written in the Bible were still before the Bible. Some events, not all events, but some events that were in the Bible were still written
But some
before some of the books in the Bible. Like, for example, Kings and the Canaanites and all that. That was written after some of the books in the Bible were written. But then again, some of the events, like you said before, Sodom and Gomorrah, we already discussed, and Adam and Eve and Cain and all that, and Abel and Noah's Ark, all these things happened before Genesis was actually written. Because Genesis was written by Moses.
Okay.
Now, again, you haven't really been arguing against God's existence. You've been arguing against the Bible itself.
Well, the Bible is God's word, right?
I would agree with that. Yes, the Bible is God's word. But you haven't really argued against God's
But if God's word is
existence.
contradicted, then
I
you
didn't
could
say
say
God.
God is for himself.
No, because we don't believe that it's the exact words of God. We believe that's divinely inspired. That's some things.
Oh, divinely inspired, so it's man-made, right?
No, not entirely.
Not entirely. Okay, what part isn't man-made?
What we mean by divinely inspired is that God, like for example, Genesis. God told Moses what happened at the creation. God told Moses what happened for the entirety of Genesis until Moses was born, and then for Moses' birth to whenever Moses was able to understand things, and Moses was able to talk with God in the entirety of Exodus, or before he was able to understand Exodus, and then those books after that Moses wrote with himself. God inspired these books, like God inspired Numbers, Deuteronomy, all those books. People wrote them down. It's not like the Quran where Allah already had the book and then He gave it down to the people, and those were Allah's words exactly.
Yeah, Allah's just not it.
You can talk to I about that one. I'm not a Muslim.
Yeah, I'm not either. But I'm but the entire thing, right?
Sure.
The entire ideology of an existence of a God, it's only hypothetical.
No.
It can't be. No matter how hard I would try, you could try so hard to prove it, but without anything, it's impossible.
To prove
It's
God?
impossible for me to. What?
To prove God?
Yeah, it's literally impossible.
I can prove God. I can give you evidence that proves God. I can't give
Okay,
you
sure.
I can give you like a video of me being with God, and even if I gave you that, you would probably say that's fake.
Okay,
That's
so
the
if my
same way
dog
with the
started
atheist.
talking, if I told you my
Hold on.
dog told me hi this morning, would you say I'm lying?
What?
If I told you my dog started talking, would you say I'm lying?
It's unlikely that
It's
happened.
unlikely. Right?
Unlikely, yes. never impossible.
So, however, right? If you told me you meet God without showing me any proof, right? It'd be unlikely, right?
Sure, sure. But I didn't
So it's
tell you I
all
met
based on
God.
probability, right? So it would all be a hypothetical probability, would it not?
A hypothetical, it's not a hypothetical probability. You just use too big. You just use too big words to try to make sense. It's a probability. It's not a hypothetical probability. It's just probability. It's less likely that
Probability
this
that
thing
he
happens.
exists. It's probability that he exists, but does he?
It's a less.
You can't prove.
Well, what type of proof do you want? Like again, because I can give you evidence for God and His existence.
Then show me evidence. Then show me evidence.
Because well, again, what evidence do you want? Because if, like, let's say I don't. If I give you eyewitness testimony and other and like the nails
What kind of
and
evidence would you give me?
hold on. If I give you nails, eyewitness testimony, secular and non, and I give you other things like the nails that were in Jesus' hands and Mary Magdalene, the shroud of Turin. If I give you those, you might just say, "Oh, well, those are doctrinary things." Or if I give you a video, like I'm not gonna say I'm gonna give you a video, but if like hypothetically, I literally gave you a video of me with God, you would say that's fake, or I guess.
If you could actually prove a video, yes, I'd say it's real.
But how do you?
But
Okay,
that's literally impossible.
but look, if you go on TikTok and you saw somebody do it, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's fake." No, but you never know if it's real. You just say, "Oh, yeah, that's fake," because you don't think that could happen. That's why I'm asking
Okay,
what type of
so if
evidence
I
do you
said
want.
okay, that's the same thing that goes if I said the Big Bang. If I saw, oh wait, oh look, the Big Bang happened. Oh man, well if I
The
pulled up
difference is
proof,
that the Big Bang happened billions of years ago.
you know the stars in the sky happen. You know the reflection of the stars that we see in the sky are reflections from billions of years ago, right?
Yes, I know.
They're like,
Yes, I know that, but that has nothing to do with what
so let's
I don't
theoretically
get it.
say, oh, a reflection of a Big Bang happening. Would you believe me? Absolutely not.
Yeah, because you can't see a reflection of the Big Bang because
That's
that
what the argument
happened.
is.
You can't see the Big Bang.
Obviously, can you see God?
Yes, you. What do you? Okay, what do you mean by can you see God? Can you see His spiritual sense or like because Jesus is God and Jesus is God and He came down to earth. You saw God, and as Jesus
Is there
says, if
any
you've
proof
seen me,
that
you've seen the
Jesus could
Father.
perform miracles? Is
Any
there any
evidence? Here, let's talk about Jesus.
any evidence?
So here, let's talk about Jesus. First, do you
Okay.
believe that Jesus existed?
Honestly, not really.
So you don't believe that Jesus existed. So you are going to go against modern scholars, atheistic and secular, non-secular. Like
Not all scholars think Jesus existed. A lot of
yes,
them do,
yes,
but not
but
all of them.
no, a lot of them do, and even people like Bart Ehrman debate people who don't believe that Jesus existed. And this might sound a little bit biased. Literally destroyed him in that debate. People believe that Jesus existed, and even like I just said, secular scholars like Bart Ehrman destroyed people that don't believe that he existed. So if you're going to go against that, well, I mean, that's fine, but why would you go against it? There's writings of him. He's the most documented guy in history from that
Documented
time. He's more
history.
documented than Caesar. He's more documented than Alexander. He's more documented than someone like Plato. We only know that Plato or Aristotle might have existed because Alexander the Great wrote about him, or I believe it was Aristotle. I'll find out.
Yeah, pretty much. But
So, yes, he's one of the most documented people in history, and you're going to not believe in it because he's also a religious figure. I know for a fact you believe Aristotle and Plato existed.
um, I mean,
Don't go back on it now. Yes, I know for a fact you did. We all do. We all believe that these people existed. Would you
okay.
agree?
So let's say.
Hold on. Would you agree?
Okay, I'll let you finish. Do I agree? No.
Yeah. Do you agree that Aristotle and these other people existed?
That Aristotle existed? Not really.
You don't believe that Aristotle existed?
Oh,
No, not anymore. Because what? Because only Alexander the Great. Who do? How do you know Abraham Lincoln existed? Do you believe Abraham Lincoln existed or George Washington existed? You
I
don't have.
mean, we have a picture. We literally have pictures. They
We
live.
have pictures. of Abraham Lincoln and
No, not pictures, actual drawings to depict it.
okay, well we have
Because
drawings
it
of
was an
Jesus.
actual president.
We
Because
have
we had millions, not thousands, not like a group of 5 to 10. We had millions who've seen him.
okay, we've had
Millions.
yeah, we had thousands who've seen Jesus.
How
Your
many? How
point?
many people did Jesus talk to? How many?
He went throughout the entirety of Israel for years. Thousands of people saw him. And whenever he went to Jerusalem for Passover before he died, people called him the Messiah. Thousands of people. And then after he died and he was resurrected, it was claimed in the book of Corinthians that 500 people, he saw 500 people over a period of 30 days.
He saw 500 people in a period of
As
30
well as,
days.
the Jewish Sanhedrin wrote about Jesus and how bad
So
he was. And you were going to believe that Jesus didn't exist?
okay, let's say Jesus does exist.
Sure.
Would he be the child of God? No.
Why not?
That I will refuse to believe
But why?
that he is the child. First of all, a woman can't get pregnant out of God knows where. Oh
So,
no, God gave him baby. No, bro.
why
That's
not? Why not?
literally scientifically impossible. You
Okay.
couldn't prove that if you tried.
Okay. So again, you don't believe that God is powerful enough to go against what science believes?
He's not powerful enough to save a child.
Do you
That's for
believe
sure.
that? That's literally not the point, and we literally just talked about that 20 minutes ago. Snowy was
Yeah.
here. My point is, God. You have to talk about God. Is talk about his all 4 or 5 omnis of God as the definition of God. That's
Okay.
what God is. And if God is powerful enough, do you know what he did was not just some average thing for science. What he did was a miracle, a very unlikely thing that happened, but God did it because God is God. He is all powerful, and
Those,
even you could say,
those
look, I'm not.
don't critical.
God is all powerful, but you keep saying he's not all powerful. At what point does his all power stop, and where do you prove that his all power stops?
At what point is he actually all powerful though? At what point would depict him as all powerful?
What do you mean? At what point? What?
Has he done anything to show that he is all powerful?
He created
That
the
has been.
universe and the world, and even if you don't want to say, "Oh, he
Do you have
didn't,"
proof of that though? That's what I'm asking. Do you have any?
okay, my question to you. So you just believe that the Big Bang just happened randomly? One of the most unlikely things. It is more unlikely than I believe 50 million you find royal flushes in a game of poker. And you believe, and that it's more unlikely than that. And you believe that just happened just because we were lucky. You believe the Goldilocks scenario that the Earth is currently in just happened because we were lucky.
Coincidence. That's why
Coincidence.
we exist.
Oh, so
The
now that's
universe doesn't
okay.
owe us
So
an
that's a
answer, bro.
coincidence. So that's a coincidence. But whenever God gives someone a baby without having to have sexual
That
intercourse,
can't
that
be a
is now
coincidence.
impossible.
It can't happen because it can't be possible. I mean, us
But the
existing
Big
itself
Bang
is
can
a
happen
fucking
because it's a big
it's a miracle
coincidence.
that we are alive. It's a miracle that you exist.
Exactly,
But for
which proves God's existence.
to say,
Thank you.
but to say that a baby can just spawn out of thin fucking air without any way whatsoever
There was a
is
way. God.
impossible.
Oh my.
It's literally
Yeah, you're
genetically
right. It
impossible
is
to have a
impossible for a baby to
baby
spawn out of
without
thin
sperm.
air. I agree with that. It is impossible for a baby to spawn out of thin air. Unless you're God. You're not God. I'm
But
not
you're,
God. You don't have the power
but
to do
still,
that.
that's an entirely high. But it's
That's
just
not
theoretical.
hypothetical.
You can't prove it in any way. Okay, hold on.
Go ahead and use Google, bro. Let me ask you this. And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So Jesus, as a person, you, let's not talk about the Immaculate Conception. If you're gonna agree that Jesus exists, then you have to go off of what the Gospels and what the disciples and what people wrote about Jesus doing. Not only did the disciples write about Jesus doing miracles, but so did the Sanhedrin, who hated Jesus. They said they saw Jesus perform miracles. They saw Jesus perform acts. Well, they didn't like to call them miracles, but they saw him perform acts of miracles, acts of good. They saw him preach, and people saw him heal people and do all these crazy things, and then claim to be God, die and then resurrect, and he was still and so appeared to multiple people. Even someone like Josephus, who is a Jewish writer, not a Christian Jewish writer, just a Jew, he did not believe in God, or he did not believe in Jesus, wrote about Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, and you still believe that his miracles and all that, and him calling himself God, did not is not likely because you go through a naturalistic worldview idea.
Notice how miracles don't happen around. Notice how. Have you ever seen a recorded miracle?
There are recorded miracles, especially in places like hospitals. Hospitals and doctors and doctor offices are some of the most recorded miracles, and doctors will always say in these miracles that these are things that they've never seen happen, and these are unbefore seen things. Those are hospitals and doctors and places like that are some crazy recorded miracles because they do not believe that these things have happened. But if you see one,
So
you're
I
like,
call
oh well, it's
miracles
fake. If I show
instances.
you a recording of an Orthodox person helping a disabled person get off the ground, oh well, it's fake because you
An
do not
orthodox
trust it to be
person
true.
helping a disabled person off the ground.
Helping a disabled person walk, or whenever the pastor of a Protestant church who lost all of his vocals in, I believe, a accident, was still trying to preach about Christ, and then his voice came back. People can testify of this crash. You can look at his face, you can look at how he looked, and it was bad, and then his voice came back while talking. You can look it up. Now, you're gonna see this and make, oh well, it's fake. Because you don't trust it, because you can see a recording and you're not gonna believe it because you are in doubt. That's why recordings, no matter what, are not gonna help you. Yes, there have been documented miracles. There have been recorded miracles. There have been both. You just refuse to believe these are true because you do not want to admit that God is real. And plus, what did these miracles have to do?
You think
And plus, what do current miracles have to do with what I said about Jesus? We're on the topic of Jesus.
you talked about miracles? I bring up miracles, then you say, "Oh,
I
but we're on the
talked about
topic of
them. I
Jesus."
talked about the miracles of Jesus because we're on Jesus. Jesus performed miracles and claimed to be God. You would have to concede that because the only
And do
way
you and do you
that you
and do
that
you
you
think that he genuinely did all that? Do you think that he actually healed people magically?
yes. Yes, because you wanna know where the disciples got these you wanna know where the disciples got these healing things from? Not only did they write them down, but they also because as we see, great multitudes of people would go to Jesus trying to get healed. They couldn't write all of it down at once. They would have to go to other people and say, "What happened? What did he how did he heal you? What did he do for you? What did he do to you? How did he heal you? What happened?" It's not just
And they
them.
explained that, right? They explained how they were healed.
Yes, they will explain, like, for example, whenever Jesus got mud and put on on a blind man's eyes, he was able to see. Yes, they talk about how they were healed, and they talk about when they were healed. I'm gonna be right back. Think about that. Jeez.
Nigga told me that mud healed a blind nigga's eye.
Back. So, what do you want to say?
Okay, so you genuinely, like, in all honesty, in all your faith, you put it into Jesus that he could perform actual miracles.
Yes.
And you're saying the how many disciples did he have? What? How
Yeah,
many?
12
Where's it?
disciples.
Where's it? Both disciples, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They documented all of this, right?
They documented as much as they could because there was a lot.
As much as they could, yes. As much as they
Mm.
could,
Mm.
right? In any way, at all, do you think that putting mud on a blind person's eye would heal them fully? You believe that, right? That he could perform genuine miracles
Yeah, and he put the blunt.
because he is God, right?
Yeah,
Because Jesus is.
used the mud to show. He used the mud. He used the mud to heal. I mean, he doesn't need to like use materialistic things, but he did in that scenario. Like for example, whenever he went to, I don't know if you heard about this fountain that people people that were like really sick, disabled or not, all went to a fountain, and I believe I don't remember where it was inside Israel exactly. There was this fountain, and they believed that if you
There's a
went into the fountain, you'd be healed. And there was a disabled guy for 30 years that could not reach the fountain because he couldn't walk. He just went up to him and told him, get up and walk. He didn't use anything special, didn't like get like mud or water, and he just told him, get up and walk, and he walked. And the Jew and what's his name? The Pharisees recorded him doing this too. It wasn't like he doesn't need these things, he can just say it. And he actually says this too. What is easier to say? Your sins are forgiven, or get up and walk. And he also, that was a different time where someone else, he did the exact same thing for. And you know where he said, you know what? You want to know where he said, or who he said that line? What is it easier to forgive sins, or say get up and walk? He said that to the Pharisees that did not believe in Jesus being God.
Do you know how much of a stretch you'd have to take? You know how much of a stretch it'd have to be to say that there's a fountain that can heal literally anything, any sort of.
Exactly, and that's why. Exactly, and that's why Jesus didn't. That's why Jesus called them out of it.
And that's the reason. That's why people don't believe it because of things like these.
No,
I
not
mean,
even things like these.
these are ridiculous claims. Like you
Well,
know
no,
that, right? These are like
people. You can't say people didn't believe in it. There were a bunch of people lined up there. Some people don't believe in it. Other people do.
this happened in what one part? This happened in Israel, right? All of Israel.
This happened. This fountain thing happened. It was heard about. This was heard around a
It
lot of
was heard
Israel.
around the world, but it mostly only happened in Israel, right?
It was not
Correct.
heard around the world. This fountain thing was in a certain part of Israel, and a certain amount of people heard about it. Some didn't believe, some did believe it, and especially the people that were sick and desperate went there.
Was there anyone? Was there anyone outside of Israel who went to the fountain, or no?
How would I know that? I don't know. I would assume maybe.
If it only happened, if it was only people from Israel and it only happened in Israel,
Well, Jesus Jesus had a Gentile disciple, right?
man,
Jesus had a Gentile disciple, which means somebody that was not from Israel, I believe.
you,
Yes, doesn't matter.
you believe that,
But
right? You believe
yes,
that.
yes, Gentiles saw Jesus argue with Gentiles. Or not argue, but he talked with Gentiles. He healed Gentiles. He was with Gentiles.
Did any of them write about this? A single one,
I
other
don't
than
know.
his 12 disciples. Did a single other person
Right about
that
Jesus?
was outside of Israel ever make a claim?
About Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have Pontius Pilate, the person that crucified Jesus. We don't have writings of him, but we know that he existed, and we know that Caesar and the people of Rome had heard about Jesus, or else they would have no reason to crucify him.
Well, isn't Caesar like really close to Jerusalem? Or am I thinking of something else?
Israel was under Rome leadership.
Yeah, yeah. So of course they're going to hear about Okay, well,
The biggest empire in the world hears about Jesus, kills Jesus,
here's a
and
better
that.
story, right? Let's okay. I'm going to shoot a big old theoretical out there, a big old thing. All right. Let's say it's a story. It's a story that gets spread like wildfire across the place, right?
Yeah. Well, I
Do
have a
you
question.
think that this could just all be a story? It's just all entirely made
Well,
in its entirety.
what's the story about? Because the story of Jesus is a real person. It's not just a story, quote unquote. That it's not, and it's stories about what Jesus had done for these people, and these people would talk about what Jesus did until other people from Rome heard about what Jesus did, and other people in Rome didn't like that Jesus was calling himself King of the Jews. And because he was calling
Well,
himself King of the Jews, they would kill him. Romans killed Jesus because he called himself King of the Jews for political reasons. So Romans knew Jesus existed and wanted him dead because they did not want Jews to start a riot.
okay. Let's say Jesus did exist. If he was God, right? And you said he let himself be killed,
Yes, he
right?
willingly died for us.
He willingly let himself be killed. Okay. He never showed up after that, right? Or did he resurrect after this?
He resurrected after his crucifixion, and then he was raised to heaven.
He was raised to heaven.
Yeah, he ascended to heaven. He ascended to heaven. After his after his resurrection, he ascended to heaven after a period of 30 days. I believe 30 days. I've been maybe a little bit longer.
He ascended to heaven.
Yeah, what do you think? He just died again?
Well,
It's written about in the end of every gospel. It's written
how did
about.
he ascend to heaven? How did he ascend to heaven? Because this is,
Well, what do you mean? How did he ascend to heaven? What do you think?
did he just like vanish, like
No, people.
disappear?
No, people saw him ascend to heaven. He didn't just. People saw
People
him.
saw him ascend to heaven. You're
Roman
telling me people
guards,
saw him,
disciples, and Jews saw him ascend to heaven. It's written about in Hebrews, and it's written about in the end of the Gospels.
that people they watched him like
Yes,
entirely just.
yeah.
Did the Romans see this or no?
I literally just said Roman guards. Yes.
The Roman guards saw this.
Yeah, I believe. I have to just
You
read like
believe? You believe?
read the first chapter of Hebrews, or read like the end of most of the Gospels, and you'll see it. But I can say for sure the disciples and some Jews saw it. Yeah.
I'm
But what's
not
your
gonna
point?
lie.
What's your point?
It's it's such a far stretch that a person actually rose up to heaven. People actually saw.
Why?
This was a. It's just such a stretch.
But how? After everything I told you about Jesus and himself and the disciples and everybody, you can hear his resurrection and you hear about his resurrection, but now it's a stretch for him to be ascended to heaven.
It's a stretch from the resurrect. First off, that's that. How was he killed the first time again?
He was crucified.
Crucified, right? Crucified, right?
Correct.
He got his hands nailed, right?
Hands nailed,
Right.
feet nailed, yes.
And you said you had proof of like nails? Question mark.
Yeah, a few of the churches have a few churches have nails, or like they claim to do.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit. I'm sorry to.
Hey, now it's BS because
So
the
this was
church
how.
claims to
Okay,
have it. Now it's BS because the
these are
church claims
nails,
to
right?
have it. How is it BS? Because the church claims to have it. They have them like on display too. Like, well, oh, but it's fake because it's from the church now. Now it's a stretch because they have the nail. I'm not going to say that's 100% true, but then again, at the same time, you can't say it's false just because it's from the church. You're saying it's a stretch because now the church has it.
Okay, these nails were made how long ago?
A long time ago, but what does this have
Oh,
to
oh,
do?
oh,
Okay,
oh.
what does it have to do with his resurrection?
To be able to find nails, right? The nails that first off to be able to keep and preserve the nails that were used in his hands after crucifixion.
Those nails are rusted up and bad badly, but what does this have to do with Jesus being resurrected?
It's after Jesus being resurrected. You told me you had proof of the nails, right? But the
Look,
nails would have
look,
been long gone, long
hold on.
gone.
We can say that we can even say they don't have them. I don't want to go into a big
Okay,
debate about the nails because right now we're
okay,
talking about Jesus. Let's say they don't have
okay.
it. What does this do for Jesus? How does this prove your point? What does that do with anything?
You're saying Jesus you're saying there were witnesses, right? Witnesses, right? For his
Yes.
resurrection.
Yes.
Did they confirm he was dead?
Yes. You want to know how they confirmed he was dead?
Hmm?
So on the cross, after having him up there for a few hours, they were gonna take all of them off. But to confirm they were dead, they had Roman soldiers stab him in the back. They had stab him like in the liver area of the back. So stab him, and if they did not flinch, didn't make a muscle, didn't move, nothing. We're just ragdoll, and they keep on. They were bleeding out. There's actually they would take them off, and there's actually a story. Not even a story. The Roman guard that killed him had a little bit of some bad eyesight in one ear or one eye. Cut him, wiped off the blood from his eyes, and he could see. And he became a Christian after that situation. Let me let you. That's one. That's something. But yes, they confirmed that he was dead from that. Took him off, and then 3 days later he rose. And he was inside of a tomb, by the way, for 3 days.
Did he heal with the injuries gone, or were they still there?
No, there were still injuries on his body. Like he still had for example, Thomas,
And
one of his
that's
disciples,
death.
Thomas, hold on, one of his disciples, Thomas, didn't believe that Jesus actually resurrected from the dead until Jesus came to him and showed him and Thomas said, unless I can see the holes in your hands and feel them and the stab on the side of your body, I will not believe. And there were the holes in the hands and the cut in the side of his body, and he felt them. So yes, he still had those big injuries.
Saying he had bad eyesight. The
Not
guard
not
before
the
he
Roman
went.
guard, Thomas. The Roman guard, his eyesight we sealed. Thomas, and
He,
plus there were other guards other than just that one Roman guard. But yes, Thomas did not have bad eyesight. Pretty quiet over there.
from another perspective, I hope you know it sounds like utter bullshit. As much
Why?
as I'm trying to half the things you're saying, it's like, did he really resurrect? Did he really say all? Did he really do this? Did he really do that?
I just gave
How do
you
we
a
know?
bunch of evidence from secular and from people that believed and other people that didn't believe, and now it sounds like BS just because you refuse to believe that it's true. This is literally just the definition of being closed-minded.
Close my. I'm listening, right? I'm listening, right? I'm
You
taking
refuse,
in
yeah,
the
but you're
information
refusing to believe that it's true because it does not follow in line with what you believe.
with what I because
What
that's
what
not
what what do
not
you believe from a naturalistic view? Like, for example, that you did not believe the conception of Mary or the Immaculate Conception because you do not believe that could happen through a naturalistic view. And I agree, it couldn't happen through
oh
a
because
naturalistic view. What Jesus' resurrection was a miracle. The Immaculate Conception was a miracle. Now these things happen because God and Jesus being God.
if so- okay, so if something's impossible, like literally impossible, like genetically, physically, and goes against the laws of goes against the natural laws itself. But but you say it happened. Do you think people would believe you
But what?
if it goes against everything, like the fact that you have to actually have a sperm interact with you to have a child? Do you like really? Do you really think this?
What do you think?
I'm like,
Well, hold on. Do you think Mary's husband believed her for like a while?
fuck no.
No, he didn't believe her for a long time until finally an angel came down and told her, this is true. She's not lying to you. She did not have an affair. She did not cheat on you. Not even he believed that this happened until an angel came down and told him that this
Yeah,
was true.
bro. Like, it's more likely to be an affair than anything else. Like, it's just
Well. Imagine if you had a wife and then she tells you that God gave her a baby, and then you don't believe her for a long time, and then an angel comes up to you and tells you that this is true.
can't we like not comprehend? Aren't angels like non-physical beings? Like
No, angels can become physical. People have seen angels. People can see angels.
people can see angels. Okay,
Yeah.
so angel came up to him, right, and said this is true, right?
He said that God gave her a faultless son.
God or a what?
Faultless son. Jesus.
Yo, Burr, add me. We're making an FXAMGC.
Oh my gosh. All right, sure. Okay, keep going. Keep going, Simon.
It's me, you, and V Stoic.
You sure? Or
Yeah, keep going, Simon. Keep going.
because in all honesty, in all, I'm gonna be 100% with you right now, right?
Lady, she make me nervous.
Shut up, Stoic. Okay, so keep going, Simon.
It,
Reasables?
you
Why?
believe like if it was a genuine miracle, right?
Yeah.
A gen
Listening.
there be like any proof at all, any like that Mary was a virgin in its entirety.
Mary was a virgin in its entirety.
Mhm.
Well, what type? As again, what type of proof do you want? And then again, how would this object to Jesus being born? See, look, 'cause, like your whole time, I'm just confused with you because every time I talk to you, first I give you the Romans. I give you Romans guards, Romans Pontius Pilate. I give you I give you the Jewish Sanhedrin that hated Jesus, that talked about him. I give you a Jewish man named Josephus that hated Jesus and still talked about his miracles and was the one that buried him. I give you the disciples. I give you the 500 people. I give you all of these things, secular, non-secular, Jewish, that Jewish followers of Christ, non-Jewish followers of Christ, non-followers of Christ, that all say the same thing. No, but no matter what, you do not believe because it does not follow with what you want to with what you want to believe that falls in line.
Well,
That makes
it's mostly
no
based in
sense.
Israel now,
What?
and it's all based in Israel now.
It's all based in Israel, but there's multiple people that are from and not from Israel that see these things happen.
But you said he was all powerful, right? Wouldn't you think it would be all around the world? Question mark.
What? What are you
You said he's all
talking
powerful.
about?
Correct.
People from all around the world came to see Jesus. Gentiles. You know what a Gentile is? Someone not a non-Jew, someone from a different part of the world. People from Greece, people from Africa, people from Europe, people from Rome, people from Arabia. People came to see Jesus. People from Ethiopia. Other people came to see Jesus. It wasn't just Rome and Jews. People heard about Jesus. Gentiles heard about Jesus. Gentiles came to see Jesus before his death, after his death happened, and after his death, his word grew. His word grew so much that you and me from the United States of America are talking about something that happened in Israel. So yes, I think his all power gave us something good to work with.
No, I could spread a word, can I? I can get something from point A to point B, right?
Yeah, but you can't do it like God can.
But I can't do it.
Well, what? Well, can you do it like God can? No, you
What
can't.
about the
But
other
yes, you can
religions
spread
that
a
have
word.
done the same?
See,
Okay, but wait.
I
But what
don't get
about
it
the
because
other?
now, because this was your argument before. God's all. If God was all powerful, why wasn't it all around the world? Well, he did. He spread Jesus' word all around the world. Well, I can spread a word. So what do you want, man? What do you want? I don't get you. I give you everything, just a load of BS. Even though people that don't even believe in Jesus would then write about these things about Jesus. But then, oh, well, why wasn't it all around the world? Well, it was all around the world. And people that were not from Israel came to see Jesus. People that were from all around the world. And he spread his word like wildfire all around the world. Well, I can spread a word. So what do you want? You're just being ignorant now. What do you want to, what do you possibly need? This is the problem with atheism, is that you just don't accept anything. What do you want?
I mean, you told me that it spreads all around the world, right?
Yes, it's spread to
I gave you an
Africa.
example that
To,
other religions have also done the same thing. So why does that make yours right and another one wrong?
I didn't say that because it spread, it was right. But I'm saying I said that because you said it would spread all around the world if God's all powerful. And it did. That was not a proof of
Okay, so does
Jesus.
that
That
make
was not a
someone?
proof of Christianity
Would
that
that
I
make a
was giving you.
Muslim all powerful too? A Muslim God, Allah all powerful. Would that make him all powerful as well? That is spread
What
all
did,
around the world.
no, it
That's your
doesn't.
claim,
It
right?
doesn't make
That's
any
your
of them
claim.
all
That's your
powerful.
claim that it's because of God that it's spread all around the world. So I'm giving you another
That was
example.
not my claim. Your claim was that if he was all powerful, it would be around the world. Well, it is all around the world from God. So how could you then say
So from
this?
that perspective, Allah would be all powerful too. No.
Okay, so what do you mean by if he's all powerful, it would be around the world? It is around the world. So what do you mean by if he's all powerful? What could you possibly mean?
I mean, like at the same time, like at the time period that like Jesus existed, it would be like, let's say, on another continent too.
It was in Europe. It was in Africa. It was in two different continents, and it was in Asia, three different continents at the same time.
And you know what Europe did with it?
You know, the Bible
They're
Bible,
either Europe's thing was live by the book or die.
the Okay, so the the first Bible, was in Ethiopia before it was in Europe. Africa, not Europe, Africa. And Israel is in Asia, Europe, Eurasia. So what you're saying, go ahead and look it up. But the Bible was in Ethiopia before it was in Europe. It was in Africa before it was in Europe, in Ethiopia, the Coptic Church. So what you're saying isn't even right. You're assuming that it was just in Israel. This spread quick.
Because he sent people out, right?
Yes, people went to
Because
go spread his word.
and you assume
Besides
his word is right.
God's word?
Mm-hmm. You assume his
Yes.
word is right,
God's word and what Jesus told the disciples to preach is right.
and you think it's right to put a person for eternal suffering?
See what I
Question
mean? Like,
mark.
what does this have to do with what we were talking about? You keep going back to topics that we talked about 50 minutes ago. Like, are you like be honest with me, Tom? Are you rage baiting me at this point? Like, are you joking with me? Are you high right now? Are you drinking? Is something? Because we just talked about this 50 minutes ago.
Um,
You're a good rage baiter, bro. Because we just talked about this.
appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. But seriously, in seriousness, the most point I had was about Sodom and Gomorrah and his punishment, right?
Sure.
And you explained that to me, right? You
Yes.
explained how his punishment comes later.
No, Sodom and Gomorrah being punished was because they were not doing things morally justified or morally right, or as we said, righteous. That's why they
Then
were
I
killed.
asked, and then I asked
Because,
why Nanjing wasn't punished.
and we taught
And
and
then you
we
asked me, how
mentioned,
do you know they weren't punished when one
and
of
I
them was
asked
the
you,
leader of the
how'd you know that
uprising?
they? And I asked you again, how'd you know that they weren't punished? And you just said, and you mentioned because one of them was promoted to a health director or something like that, and that's how we know so
The
much
leader
about
of the health
penises.
organization for the country, right? And the rest of the soldiers got to go home that day, by the way,
You have to go home that
to
day.
their loving families.
Okay. So you expect God's timing to be on your timing? Well, they should have been punished that
No,
day.
that's not what I'm saying.
You said because all the
I don't
soldiers have to go
expect
home that
timing to
day.
be
Every
coordinated with
single
my
soldier got
timing.
to go home that day.
Every soldier, right? After that, they went home.
Okay.
They
How do
were
you know
they.
that they weren't punished after that? That's my question to you.
How do I know that they weren't punished after?
Yeah.
Well, there's a
Because
record that they literally held trials and all of them got off for them because they agreed to give USA info that they
personal
had.
trials, not okay. So trials made by humans, but not God punishing them. I'm asking you, how'd you know
Okay,
that they weren't punished by
but I'm saying they
God,
didn't get punished
not by
at the
people?
trials at all. Okay, okay. And you
Uh,
think, and you're saying they got punished later on, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah. Well, they had to. Well, of course, I'm not gonna say no for sure, but I'm asking you, how would you know that
I
they
mean,
weren't? Because
some of them
because
died of old age, bro. Not all of them were like actually punished.
some died of old age. True, some died early. What's your point? How do you know that someone getting punished? How do you know someone's life wasn't cut shorter because God made it so because of what they did? And how do you know that some of the soldiers did not feel regret for their actions? How do you know any of this? What you keep talking
Because they
about,
made it a competition, because they were laughing and joking about it.
laughing and joking about it, and you know this how.
And I know this. They we know they tested on human experiments. They got to do whatever they wanted.
Here, let me ask you this:
They were
how
told
do you
they were
hold
allowed
on,
to
hold on,
roam
hold on?
free
How
and
do you
do
know that
whatever.
this? How do you know this happened? Because it was written down. Because it was like
Yeah,
documented.
this was
Yes.
documented. Yes.
Okay. What's a load of BS? Because I don't believe it. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how you sounded with the Gospels. Because it was written down. There's no videos. No fighting.
No, I'm pretty sure
Just written down and
there's
documented.
definitely videos. No, there's definitely videos of these human experiments happening. Like
Really?
like the USA has like all of like their experimental proof. They
How
have.
long? How long
Why do
ago
you
was
think we
this?
know?
How long ago
I'm
was
gonna say
this?
this again. Why do you think we know about fetuses?
No.
And that's where we
How
got the
long ago was
information
this?
from. This was Nanjing massacre took place. Let me think. Fuck. Let me look it up real quick. Remember the exact date. Oh, December 13, 1937.
1937.
Yep.
I know about the Nanjing massacre because it was on China, and because people needed, or the Japanese needed resources.
You
and
know
needed
about
food.
the 80,000 that were raped and the over 300,000 that were murdered?
Yeah, that were murdered and raped and died in a horrible, tragic way. Yes. Now, this was written down and documented, and you're saying that there's videos of this for some whatever reason they would have videos of this. Because I don't know why or how they would have videos of this for whatever reason, but they would. According to you, the U.S. has this. That makes no sense.
Oh man, I just explained to you. Why do you think we know about so much about the stages of birth? Because they would take the children out of the women and study them. That's where we get our info from about it. That's where that comes from.
Because what again?
Huh?
Because what again? They would take the babies out of the women and study them.
They would use the people that they impregnate as experiments. That's how we know about the stages of children, stages of babies.
Okay. And you got this because of a document, right? Well, I don't believe it because it's only a document.
I mean, I was taught it.
Oh, you were taught it?
I can proudly say my teacher could back me up on that claim.
Okay. Well, your teacher said it. So what? That's just someone talking about it a bunch of years later.
I
So I
mean,
don't
I don't
believe
have
it.
access. I don't have access to the videos that the USA does.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, I
for
don't
some
have
reason the
access to
USA would
that,
take videos on
but
this.
it exists. I can
How do you know that?
proudly say
How do you know that it exists? It's hypothetical. You're having a pure hypothetical. You see how stupid that sounds? How dumb that sounds. And the only reason I'm not engaging with this anymore is because we engaged with this over 2 hours ago.
All right, my bad. What?
You see how everything I just said sounds stupid and ignorant and, well, you're just trying to beg the question? Exactly. It's the same thing with what you said. And the only reason I'm not engaging with it is because we literally engaged with this 2 hours ago. If you want to deal
Well,
with that,
I'm saying this like actual like video evidence, actual video proof, actual like
there's no
proof
video
that this. You
evidence.
don't.
Well, I
You
haven't
don't
seen
have
any
proof of
video
Jesus.
evidence. I haven't seen any
We've never even
pictures.
seen Jesus. We don't have a picture of Jesus. There's nothing that Jesus could actually have done any of this. So we have the words of people. How do we know not everybody's a liar? How do you know that? You don't. That's the thing.
But not
For
everybody's a
this, we
liar.
have proof. We have videos.
So, okay. So the Jewish Sanhedrin, come back. So, this guy, I want everyone to pay attention here. I want everybody to listen to what this guy just said. So, he just said that because there's no videos, it's not true. Or that there's no crazy big
All right,
evidence.
my bad. All right, my bad.
So, hold on. So,
Okay.
there's the Jewish Sanhedrin that hates Jesus and wants him dead, gave him crazy elevation and crazy evidence by saying that he did miracles and that he performed these miracles, even though they hated Jesus. They didn't want him around. They wanted to kill him. But they were right that he did miracles, that he said great things, that he did good teaching, but they also challenged his
And
authority. So they would give him a high elevated sounding status, even though they hated him. That makes a bunch of sense. It would also make a bunch of sense that the Romans would kill a Jew, but also mention he called himself the king of the Jews. Why would they lie about him having an elevated status? What you're saying is just stupid.
what I'm saying is just stupid because I'm saying you can't go off of somebody's word.
Well, yeah, I agree. You can't go off of one person's word. That's why there's multitudes of people.
Okay. A multitude of people can lie, can they not? Cults lie. They
Yeah,
have
but
multitude. Then, right?
thousands of different people from different areas, plus 500 different people from different areas, plus Pontius
Thousands
Pilate, plus the
of
highest
different
ranking Jewish
one
Sanhedrin
one
officer.
great area. The word spreads in one area. Yes, of course it's going to spread in one area. Of course it's going to get out of that one area if you keep pushing the word around.
I
That
didn't I
doesn't
didn't
mean the
mention
word.
I didn't mention the word getting out. I said that multiple different people from multiple different areas seeing one man, then spreading that word from multiple different people from different areas seeing one man do something, telling other people about it. Story spreads, all lines up, have the books written down from people that personally knew him, and now what you're saying,
A mass lie that
a mass
possibility
lie.
that
So
a
your
mass lie.
argument is now a mass lie. And let me tell you, does that make sense to you? A mass lie? Does a mass lie seem like a very sound and fair and justifiable argument? Does it sound
No.
very realistic and hypothetical that thousands of people will lie about a man doing crazy things, even just to watch him die, and then
But does it
other
say?
people
But does it seem like a very very reasonable thing that people wouldn't be punished? But you say it comes later. But no, wait.
people wouldn't be punished?
You
When did
say
I
it
say
comes
that?
later. You literally. Oh
I
man,
said
oh
people.
man.
I said they were punished. I said they were punished. I didn't. What you said was that just because they were not punished the second that it happened does not mean that
Of course, they
that
were
they weren't
punished later
punished.
on. They lived a good life after that. Their
Oh,
families
oh,
were
oh!
paid
So
because of that.
what? Were you one of the Japanese that did the rapings? Because you just said they all lived a good life. Did you personally know all the hundreds of thousands of people that did that? You're going off of one guy who got very. You're going off of a couple of guys that got very famous and very popular off of it. You're not going off of the other hundreds of thousands of people. See what I mean? The
Ones whose families
idiocy.
get
You're trying to bring
compensation
up
if they
something
die.
that happened.
You know their families get compensated, right? If they die. You know that you're like well aware if they ever did die, their families would live happily ever after. They signed up for this. They know what they
Okay,
got
and
into.
are the families the people? And are the families the ones that raped? No.
The people
Are the
who did the
families the
raping
ones that
were
conducted the
never.
experiments? No.
None
Are the
of them ever
families the
paid.
ones that did these
None of them
horrible
ever paid for their.
atrocities? No, they're not. See what I mean? You don't get what you're talking about. You're trying to use a rape that happened in 1937 before World War
And it's
II
legit.
to justify Sodom, to justify your hate against Sodom and Gomorrah. And instead of actually objecting to Jesus and everything I've said about Jesus, you keep going back to something that's not even talked about biblically, something that's not even supposed to be with Christianity at all. This has nothing to do with Christianity, and yet you keep bringing it up
Has to
as
do
a
with
point to try and
judgment.
prove
What
against
I'm saying.
Christianity and
You,
God. This is
his
one of the
judgment
dumbest arguments I've
of
ever
God.
had. You are a waste of my time.
His judgment.
Understand the argument that I give to you. Gee,
But his judgment only applies to specific people.
I never said that.
That's what Sodom and Gomorrah is. That's the point.
No,
I mean,
his
you said
judgment applies
you
to people
right?
that are wicked and to people that are
Which
good too. But people get punished for their wickedness. If you're going to talk about atrocities, talk about that. Don't talk about 1937. Which has nothing at all to do with the Christian God. This has nothing to do with the Bible, and nothing to do with the gospel, and nothing to do with
oh,
Jesus.
so you think Sodom and Gomorrah is okay to burn them down because they did incest and quote unquote wicked things?
Oh, so
I mean,
okay,
it talks about
so you think it was fine for a whole civilization to do incest, for them to do adultery, for them to have sex with animals, and to murder, kill, rape, and do all these evil things, and you think that is okay for them to just live
it's
like that?
okay. They
You
didn't
know,
get
no.
punished, did
You
they?
think that's okay? Answer.
They
You
didn't
think
get
that's
punished
okay for
in
them
the
to live
name
like
Jane,
that?
did they? They didn't get punished in the name Jane, did they?
Answer me. Did you think that Sodom and Gomorrah? Do you think that that was okay for them to not be punished? Answer me. Yes or no.
Obviously, they deserve to be punished. Obviously, name Jane deserves to be punished,
So
but they
okay,
didn't get punished.
so you agree with me that they deserve to be punished. So you have no objection, but what you're going to do is bring up something that happened in 1937, not the
I'm going to
Bible,
bring up a
not
similar incident
Christianity,
that's almost
none
the
of that.
exact
And then
same.
whenever I give you an answer, such as how do you know that they haven't been punished, what you keep bringing up is a few people that have been promoted, and I told you what would
I
happen to those
but
people,
whoever
but
he
apparently
promoted.
you don't know.
I don't know
You,
the soldiers individually, do I? I mean,
exactly, you don't know them individually,
they
so
were
you
all
can't say
every
that they
single one
haven't
of them
been
got to go to
punished.
college. Every single one of them got to go scot free. Every single one of them.
And
Every
how do you know
single
that
one.
they weren't punished later? How do you know that their towns didn't frown upon them? How do you know these
Your
things?
entire
You
argument
don't
is
know.
based off of
That's the thing, is that you
your
don't.
entire thing is
You
based
have
off of
no
theorizing.
idea. How do you know that? How do you know that their wives and children, that their families didn't feel ashamed of these people that raped and murdered and killed? How do you know that their wives were not in pain
Because
and
their
suffering
family didn't know.
because their own husband just raped a woman and killed kids and women? And you think that wife was okay with that? You think that wife was like, "Yeah, good job,
They
you did
didn't
that."
know. that wife had no clue about his crimes.
They had no clue about his crimes, but you just said that they were all put on court.
They were all put on the court out of. None of them were put on court in their own country.
So okay, so let me get this straight. So these guys are going off to go get put on court in a different country, and their wives have no idea whether they were just lied to, and you're gonna tell me that they were just lied to, or that they had no idea that they were put in court after seeing them because you just know that apparently.
I mean, they were literally. You know what?
You
I could pull out a document and everything, and you'd still say, "Well, that probably didn't happen anyway, man." Also, your friend's server muted. He's begging to be unmuted.
Well, that's exactly what you said this whole debate. I'm not gonna waste my time.
So it goes